Albino girl banished to Lakota as bad luck. She found true love among the Lakota. The wind moved slowly across the dry fields outside the small frontier town, carrying dust and quiet whispers through narrow streets made of packed earth. People here believed in signs, in luck, and in things they could not explain. It was a place where stories traveled faster than truth, and where being different often meant standing alone. Eliza had known this feeling for as long as she could remember. She was born on a cold morning when the sky was pale and empty, and from the moment she opened her eyes, everyone noticed how different she looked. Her hair was light like winter grass, her skin almost glowing under the sun, and her eyes sensitive to bright light. As a child, she did not understand why people stared. She only knew that children stopped talking when she walked near them, and adults sometimes lowered their voices when she passed. Her parents loved her deeply and tried to protect her from harsh words, but even their kindness could not stop the quiet distance others kept. Some neighbors were polite, others avoided her completely, and a few whispered old beliefs that made her feel like a shadow among living people. Eliza grew up learning to watch rather than speak. She spent long hours near the edge of town, where open land stretched far into the horizon. There she felt less judged. The sky did not stare back at her, and the wind did not ask questions. Her father worked hard to provide for their small family. He often told her that strength was not loud, and that patience could carry a person through the hardest days. Her mother taught her small skills: how to mend cloth, how to gather herbs, how to notice the way animals move before storms. These quiet lessons became Eliza's comfort. But life in the town was changing. One year, the rains came late. Crops struggled and tension grew among the settlers. People searched for reasons behind their misfortune. Some blamed the weather. Others blamed traders or distant conflicts. Yet slowly, quietly, a few began whispering about Eliza again. It started with small comments. "She brings strange luck. Things were easier before. Things were easier before."
"She is not like us." Eliza heard these words even when they were meant to be hidden.
They reached her ears like cold wind slipping through cracks in a door. At first, she tried to ignore them. She helped her parents with chores, stayed kind to everyone she met, and avoided drawing attention. Yet no matter how quietly she lived, she could not change the way people looked at her. One afternoon while she walked through town carrying a basket of herbs, two boys laughed as she passed. Their laughter was not playful. It was sharp and uneasy. She kept her eyes down and continued walking, pretending not to notice. Inside, she felt a familiar ache, the kind that grew slowly rather than all at once. Despite everything, there were moments of peace. An older woman who ran a small trading post sometimes spoke kindly to her, offering simple greetings without judgment. A young child once waved at her with pure curiosity rather than fear. These small acts reminded Eliza that not everyone believed the whispers. Still, fear spreads quickly when people feel uncertain. When a sudden storm damaged several homes and injured livestock, frustration turned into blame. A group of townspeople gathered one evening outside the meeting hall, voices rising with worry and anger. Eliza watched from a distance, sensing that something was changing. Her father returned home that night with heavy steps. He did not speak much, but his silence told her enough. The town leaders had begun discussing whether her presence was causing unrest. They did not use harsh words openly, but the meaning was clear.
"They are afraid," her father said quietly.
"Of me?"
she asked, her voice barely above a whisper.
He paused before answering.
"Of what they do not understand." Days passed, each one heavier than the last. People stopped visiting their home. Some avoided eye contact completely. Even those who had once been friendly seemed unsure how to behave around her. Eliza felt the world closing in. One morning, a council member arrived at their door. He spoke politely but firmly, explaining that tensions in town were growing dangerous. For the safety of everyone, including Eliza herself, it would be best if she left for a while. He claimed it was not punishment, only a precaution. But Eliza understood what it meant. She was being sent away. Her mother tried to argue, her voice shaking with emotion. But the decision had already been made. Fear had taken root in too many hearts. That night Eliza sat outside under the wide sky, watching stars appear one by one. She felt sadness, yes, but also something deeper, a quiet strength she had learned from years of standing alone. She was afraid of leaving everything she knew, yet part of her wondered if there might be a place where she would not need to hide. The next morning arrived too quickly. Her parents packed simple supplies for her journey. Her father placed a small carved charm in her hand, telling her it was meant to remind her that she was never truly alone. Her mother hugged her tightly, whispering words of hope. Eliza did not cry as she walked away from the town. Instead, she kept moving forward, step by step, following a path that stretched toward unknown lands. The air felt different outside the boundaries she had always known. The open plains seemed endless, both beautiful and frightening. She walked for hours, guided only by instinct and faint directions given by travelers long ago. As the sun lowered toward the horizon, she realized how alone she truly was. Yet the silence around her felt different from the silence she had known before. This one did not judge her. She found a small hill and sat down to rest. For the first time since leaving, she allowed herself to breathe deeply without fear of watching eyes. The world was larger than the town that had rejected her, and somewhere beyond the horizon, unknown people and unknown paths waited. Eliza did not know yet that her journey would lead her toward a community that saw her differently, or that she would discover a sense of belonging she had never felt before. For now, she only knew that she had survived the first step, leaving behind a place that had never truly been home, and walking toward a future she could not yet imagine. The open plain stretched endlessly in every direction, and Eliza walked slowly beneath a sky that seemed larger than anything she had known before. Each step carried her farther away from the town that had rejected her, yet the memory of it followed closely behind. The sound of wind moving through tall grass became her only companion. Sometimes she felt strong, as if she had been given a chance to begin again. Other times, loneliness pressed against her chest like a heavy weight. She traveled carefully, resting when the sun grew too strong, and moving again when the air cooled. Her eyes were sensitive to bright lights, so she wrapped cloth around her head to protect them. The small bundle her parents had given her was light, but to her it felt like a piece of home she refused to leave behind. Days passed quietly. She saw birds circling high above, small animals darting through the grass, and distant hills rising like shadows against the horizon. At night she made small fires when she could, watching the flames flicker as she wondered what waited ahead. Sometimes she spoke aloud just to hear a human voice, even if it was only her own. One evening, as the sky turned gold and purple, she noticed movement in the distance. At first she froze, unsure whether to hide or continue walking. Her heart beat faster as shapes became clearer, figures on horseback, moving with steady confidence across the land. Eliza felt fear rise inside her. She had learned that people often reacted to her with suspicion. Yet running away would only make her appear more afraid, so she stood still, waiting. The riders approached slowly, observing her with calm attention. Their presence felt different from the people she had known before. There was no immediate tension, no loud voices, only quiet watchfulness. One of them spoke softly in a language she did not understand. Another gestured gently, as if asking whether she needed help. Eliza hesitated before nodding. She did not know it yet, but she had just met members of a Lakota community. They offered her water first, then simple food. Their kindness felt unexpected, almost unreal. She waited for suspicion to appear, for whispers or fearful looks, but instead she saw curiosity. They examined her pale features without harsh judgment, as if trying to understand rather than reject. Communication was difficult. She spoke slowly, using gestures when words failed. They responded with patience, showing her that she could walk with them if she wished. With no other place to go, she agreed. The journey with them felt calmer than traveling alone. They moved with purpose, guiding their horses across the land as if they were part of it. Eliza watched carefully, noticing how they respected the environment around them. Nothing felt rushed or careless. When they reached their camp, she paused at the edge, unsure whether she was truly welcome. Children played near small fires, while elders sat in quiet conversation. The air carried sounds of laughter and movement, creating a feeling of life and warmth she had missed. Some people looked surprised when they saw her, but not afraid. A few approached slowly, studying her appearance with interest rather than fear. An older woman stepped forward and spoke gently, her voice steady and calm. Though Eliza could not understand the words, the tone felt welcoming. They gave her a place to sit and rest. Someone handed her a blanket. Another offered warm food. These simple acts felt almost overwhelming after days of isolation. That night, as she sat near the fire, she realized something strange. No one avoided her. No one whispered loudly enough for her to hear. She felt visible but not judged. Still, she remained cautious. Years of rejection had taught her to expect kindness to disappear quickly. Over the following days, she observed the rhythms of the community. People worked together, sharing tasks without harsh orders. Some hunted, others prepared food, and many focused on caring for one another. The sense of unity felt unfamiliar but comforting. Communication improved slowly. She learned a few words, repeating them carefully until others smiled in approval. Laughter sometimes followed when she made mistakes, but it felt warm rather than cruel. For the first time in her life, laughter around her did not carry sharp edges. A young man named Wyan often helped translate simple ideas through gestures and shared tasks. He did not treat her like a strange object or a fragile person. Instead, he spoke to her as if she belonged there already. His calm presence helped her feel less alone. One morning he showed her how to gather certain plants safely. She listened closely, repeating the process until she understood. When she succeeded, he nodded with quiet respect, and that small gesture filled her with unexpected pride. Not everyone accepted her immediately. A few elders watched from a distance, their expressions thoughtful and cautious. Eliza understood their hesitation. She knew she was an outsider entering a community with its own traditions and history. Rather than forcing acceptance, she chose patience. She helped where she could, carrying water, preparing food, repairing small items. Her careful attention to detail slowly earned trust. People noticed that she worked hard without seeking praise. As days turned into weeks, she began to feel something she had never known before: belonging. It came slowly, built from shared meals, quiet conversations, and moments of understanding that did not require words. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she sat beside the fire watching children play nearby. Their laughter felt natural, free from judgment. A small child approached her, curious about her pale hair, and gently touched it before smiling brightly. The moment felt simple yet powerful. Eliza realized that here, she was not seen as bad luck. She was simply another person learning and growing. Yet she knew challenges still waited ahead. The world beyond the camp remained uncertain, and her past experiences had taught her that acceptance could be fragile. As she watched the firelight dance against the darkening sky, she felt both hope and caution. She was beginning to trust again, step by step, allowing herself to believe that maybe this place could become more than a temporary refuge. Somewhere deep inside, she sensed that her journey was only beginning, and that the bond she formed here would shape her future in ways she could not yet imagine. Time moved quietly within the Lakota camp, measured not by clocks but by the rising sun, the changing wind, and the rhythm of daily life. For Eliza, each morning felt like another step into a world she was slowly learning to understand. She no longer woke with the heavy fear she once carried. Instead, she felt curiosity about what she would learn that day. At first, she remained careful not to assume she belonged fully. Years of rejection had taught her to expect kindness to fade. Yet as days turned into weeks, small moments began to change how she saw herself. People greeted her with nods or warm smiles. Children ran past her without hesitation. Even the elders who had once watched from a distance began speaking to her more often.
Eliza worked hard to contribute.
She learned how to prepare food using simple methods that respected nature and avoided waste. She practiced sewing and repairing clothing alongside older women who patiently guided her hands. She also helped gather plants, carefully memorizing which ones were useful for healing and which ones were not. Her sharp observation skills became one of her greatest strengths. Because she had spent much of her life watching from the edges of groups, she noticed details others sometimes missed. She remembered where certain herbs grew and how weather patterns changed. When she shared these observations, people listened. Slowly, respect replaced curiosity. Wyan often worked beside her. Their connection grew quietly, without dramatic words or sudden changes. He spoke gently and listened carefully, never rushing her to speak more than she wanted. Through him, she learned more of the language, repeating phrases until they felt natural. One afternoon, while they walked near a small stream, Wyan asked about her past. Eliza hesitated. Speaking about the town she left behind still hurt, but she sensed he truly wanted to understand. She explained how people had feared her because of her appearance and how whispers had grown into exile. He listened without interrupting, his expression thoughtful rather than shocked. When she finished, he simply said that people often fear what they do not know. His calm acceptance made her feel lighter, as if a weight she had carried alone was finally shared. As their friendship deepened, others noticed the quiet bond between them. Some teased gently, their smiles warm and playful. Eliza felt shy but also happy in a way she had never experienced before. Despite her growing confidence, challenges remained. A group of traders arrived one morning, bringing goods and news from distant settlements. Their presence changed the atmosphere of the camp. Outsiders often carried new ideas and unfamiliar attitudes, and Eliza felt old fears return. When one of the traders noticed her pale features, he stared too long, whispering something to another man. The tone reminded her of the past. She felt her stomach tighten as memories of judgment resurfaced. Later that day, she overheard conversations questioning why the Lakota people would accept someone others had rejected. Though the words were not openly cruel, they carried doubt. Eliza felt the fragile safety she had built begin to shake. For a moment, she considered leaving quietly before history repeated itself. The thought of being forced away again filled her with dread. She withdrew from others, spending more time alone near the edge of the camp. Wyan noticed the change immediately. He approached her one evening as she sat watching the sunset. Without asking many questions, he simply sat beside her, allowing silence to speak first. Eventually, she admitted her fear, that acceptance here might disappear just like it had before. He shook his head gently and explained that this community valued actions more than rumors. People had watched her work, seen her kindness, and learned who she truly was. His words did not erase her fears completely, but they gave her strength to remain. Over the following days, she made a conscious decision not to hide again. She continued helping with daily tasks and spoke confidently when needed. Instead of shrinking away from doubtful looks, she met them calmly. One important moment came when a child became ill with a fever. Eliza remembered certain herbs her mother had taught her about long ago. With permission from elders, she prepared a simple remedy. The child improved slowly, and while no one credited her alone, many acknowledged her contribution. That experience changed how several skeptics viewed her. They began seeing her not as an outsider, but as someone who added value to the community. As trust deepened, Eliza started participating in gatherings where stories were shared around the fire. Though she could not understand every word, she listened closely, feeling connected through emotion rather than language alone. The stories often spoke of resilience, respect for nature, and learning from hardship. She recognized pieces of her own journey within them. Her bond with Wyan continued to grow through shared moments rather than dramatic declarations. They worked side by side, laughed at small mistakes, and supported each other during difficult tasks. One evening, while watching stars appear above the plains, he told her that everyone carries a story shaped by both pain and hope. She realized then that he did not see her as fragile or strange, but as strong. Still, tension lingered beneath the surface as some visitors continued questioning her presence. Eliza understood that acceptance was not always easy or immediate. Rather than seeking approval from everyone, she focused on building genuine relationships. Gradually, she noticed a change within herself. The quiet girl who once avoided attention began speaking more freely. She laughed without worrying who might judge her. She felt pride in the skills she learned and the trust she earned. One evening as she walked through the camp, she caught a reflection in still water. For a moment she studied her pale features, the same ones that had once made her feel like a curse. But now, instead of sadness, she felt something new. Acceptance. She realized that her difference had not changed. What had changed was the way people saw her and the way she saw herself. Yet she sensed that greater challenges still lay ahead. The world beyond the camp remained uncertain, and acceptance would continue to be tested. But for the first time in her life, she felt ready to face whatever came next. Not alone, but surrounded by people who had chosen to know her rather than fear her. The air began to change as autumn slowly faded into winter. The wind grew colder, carrying a sharp edge that touched everything it passed. Eliza noticed how the camp prepared carefully for the coming season. People worked together more than ever, gathering supplies, repairing shelters, and storing food for the long months ahead. She helped wherever she could. Each task made her feel more connected to the life around her. She no longer felt like a visitor watching from the side. Instead, she moved with purpose, learning from others and offering what she could in return. Still, she sensed a quiet tension growing beneath the surface. Winter was always a difficult time, and even the strongest communities felt its pressure. Resources had to be managed wisely, and every decision mattered. The elders held longer discussions, their voices serious as they planned for challenges ahead. One morning, dark clouds covered the sky earlier than expected, and a heavy snowfall arrived faster than anyone predicted. The sudden change disrupted travel routes and made hunting more difficult. People returned to camp with worried expressions, speaking in low tones. Eliza felt old fears slowly returning. Hard times often brought blame, and she wondered if someone might begin questioning her presence again. She pushed the thought away and focused on helping. Days grew shorter, and cold winds surrounded the camp. Fires burned constantly, filling the air with warmth and smoke. Inside shelters, people shared stories and laughter to keep spirits strong. Yet outside, the land became quiet and harsh. One evening, a disagreement broke out among a few members of the community. Voices rose slightly, not in anger, but in worry. Some questioned whether they had prepared enough for the winter. Others spoke about recent challenges and unexpected changes. Eliza listened from a distance, her heart beating faster. Though no one mentioned her directly, she could not stop the old fear from returning. She remembered how quickly whispers had turned against her in the past. Wayan noticed her unease. Later that night, he sat beside her near the fire and asked gently what troubled her. She admitted that she feared becoming the reason people blamed misfortune again. He shook his head, reminding her that this community faced challenges together without searching for someone to carry the burden alone. His words comforted her, but doubt lingered quietly. As winter deepened, hunting trips became more difficult. Food had to be used carefully. Everyone contributed by repairing tools, gathering wood, and supporting one another. Eliza worked tirelessly, determined to prove through action that she belonged. One afternoon, while helping organize supplies, she noticed something important. Certain stored items were being used faster than expected. Because she had a strong memory for details, she realized that small miscalculations could cause problems later. At first, she hesitated to speak. She worried about being wrong or causing unnecessary concern. But after thinking carefully, she approached one of the elders and explained her observations respectfully. The elder listened closely. After checking the supplies again, he realized she was correct. Adjustments were made to ensure food lasted longer through the season. The change was small but meaningful. Word spread quietly that Eliza's careful attention had helped avoid a larger problem. Several people thanked her, and even those who had once been unsure about her now spoke with greater warmth. Yet the greatest test came unexpectedly. A strong storm arrived one night, bringing heavy snow and powerful winds. Shelters had to be secured quickly, and everyone worked together despite freezing conditions. Eliza helped guide children to safety and carried supplies where needed. During the storm, part of the camp's storage structure weakened under the weight of snow. Panic began to rise as people worried about losing important resources. Eliza remembered something she had seen earlier, a way to support the structure using nearby materials. Without waiting for praise or permission, she joined others and carefully helped reinforce the weakened area. A calm focus helped steady those around her. Together, they managed to secure the storage before damage became severe. When the storm finally passed, exhaustion filled the camp, but relief followed quickly. People gathered near the fire, sharing quiet gratitude for having made it through. Later, an elder approached Eliza and spoke kindly, expressing appreciation for her efforts. Though the words were simple, they carried deep meaning. She realized that she was no longer being observed as an outsider. She was being recognized as someone who contributed to the community's survival. That night, she sat alone for a moment, watching snow fall gently under moonlight. Memories of her past returned, lonely nights when she felt unwanted and misunderstood. Comparing those memories to her present life felt almost unreal. Wyan joined her quietly, standing beside her as they watched the snowy landscape together. He told her that strength often shows itself during difficult times, not through loud actions but through steady support. She smiled softly, understanding that he was speaking about her. As days passed, warmth slowly returned to daily life despite the cold weather. People laughed again, sharing stories of the storm and the lessons learned from it. Eliza felt more connected than ever. Children often came to her now, asking questions or simply sitting near her while she worked. The trust she once feared would disappear had instead grown stronger. One evening, during a gathering around the fire, an elder shared a story about people who were once seen as different, but later became important parts of their community. Though the story did not mention her directly, Eliza felt its message deeply. She realized that belonging was not given all at once. It was built through patience, shared struggles, and mutual respect. Winter continued, but fear no longer ruled her thoughts. Instead, she felt a quiet confidence that she had earned her place through kindness, effort, and resilience. Yet she sensed that another change was coming. The hardest part of her journey had not only been surviving rejection, it had been learning to believe she deserved acceptance. Now, as she looked around at the faces of people who trusted her, she felt ready to embrace whatever future awaited her. Winter slowly began to loosen its hold on the land. Snow that once covered everything like a heavy blanket started to melt under the gentle warmth of the sun. Small streams appeared where ice had been, and the air carried a feeling of quiet renewal. For Eliza, the change in season felt like a reflection of her own journey. She woke one morning to the sound of birds returning. Their soft calls filled the camp with life, and people stepped outside with hopeful smiles. The hardest part of winter had passed, and with it came a sense of relief that spread through everyone. Eliza stood near the edge of the camp, watching the horizon glow with early light. Months earlier, she had arrived here uncertain and afraid. Now, she felt calm. The land no longer seemed strange to her. Every path, every voice, every shared laugh had become part of her daily world. Life returned to a steady rhythm. People repaired tools damaged during winter, gathered fresh plants, and prepared for warmer days ahead. Eliza worked alongside them, no longer hesitating before joining tasks. Her movements were natural, confident, as if she had always belonged. The elders began including her more often in discussions about daily plans. Though she still listened more than she spoke, she felt respected. When she shared ideas, others considered them thoughtfully. This quiet trust meant more to her than any grand words. Her relationship with Wyan also continued to grow. Their connection had formed slowly through shared experiences rather than sudden emotion. They spent time together gathering supplies, walking along streams, and talking about small details of life. With him, she felt understood without needing to explain everything. One afternoon, as they walked through open grasslands touched by spring, Wyan asked her if she still thought about leaving. The question surprised her. She paused before answering, looking at the wide sky above. She admitted that at first she had expected to move on someday, believing she would never truly belong anywhere. But now, she said quietly, she felt something different. She felt rooted, like a tree finally finding soil where it could grow. He smiled gently, and though neither spoke further, the moment felt important. Not long after, a group of travelers arrived from a nearby settlement. News spread quickly through the camp, and people gathered to greet them. Among the visitors were individuals who had known of Eliza's past town. Hearing familiar names made her heart race. Fear returned briefly. She wondered whether old stories about her had followed here. During the gathering, one traveler recognized her and looked surprised. For a moment, silence surrounded them. Eliza felt every breath become heavy. But instead of stepping back or hiding, she stood calmly, remembering everything she had learned. The traveler spoke politely, asking about her journey and how she had come to live among the Lakota. She answered honestly, without shame or anger. She explained how she had been misunderstood before but had found acceptance here through shared work and respect. People listened quietly. No one reacted with fear or doubt. Instead, members of the community stood beside her naturally, showing through their presence that she was one of them. That moment changed something deep inside her. For the first time, she faced her past without feeling small. She realized that her worth no longer depended on the opinions of those who once rejected her. Later that evening, as the sun set, the camp gathered for a celebration marking the arrival of spring. Music filled the air, and laughter carried across the open land. Eliza watched people dancing and sharing stories, feeling warmth spread through her chest. An elder approached her and spoke softly, explaining that belonging comes from shared experiences and mutual care. He told her that she had shown patience, courage, and kindness during difficult times. His words felt like a quiet acknowledgement of her journey. As night deepened, stars appeared one by one above the camp. Eliza sat near the fire, reflecting on everything she had experienced, from loneliness and exile to acceptance and love. She understood now that being different had never been the problem. The problem had been fear and misunderstanding. Wyan joined her again, and they sat together in comfortable silence. After a while, he reached for her hand. The gesture was simple but meaningful, filled with trust rather than urgency. She felt her heart steady, realizing that true love did not need dramatic words. It grew slowly, shaped by respect and shared strength. In the following days, life continued with gentle changes. Eliza became more involved in teaching children some of the skills she had learned from her parents. She showed them how to observe nature carefully and treat every living thing with respect. Watching the children learn filled her with quiet joy. Sometimes she still remembered the town she had left behind, but those memories no longer carried pain. Instead, they reminded her how far she had come. One evening, she walked alone to a nearby hill where she could see the entire camp below. Smoke rose gently from fires, and voices blended into a peaceful rhythm. She realized that this place had become more than a refuge. It had become her home. She understood now that true belonging was not about changing who you are to fit others' expectations. It was about finding people who saw your true self and welcomed it. As the sky darkened, she felt gratitude for every step of her journey, even the difficult ones that had led her here. Without them, she might never have discovered the strength inside herself or the love she now shared. The wind moved softly across the land, carrying a promise of new beginnings. And as Eliza walked back toward the warm glow of the campfire, she knew that her story was no longer defined by exile or fear, but by resilience, connection, and the quiet power of finding a place where she truly belonged.